It's nearly impossible to create an accurate list of the most prominent ethnic groups taken in the Atlantic slave trade. However, we can broadly measure the regions enslaved Africans were taken from and consider the cultural and linguistic influence of these groups upon arrival. Welcome to another episode of African History, Culture and Worldview. Remember, if you want access to sources, courses, exclusive videos, or simply wish to support Africarized, subscribe to our channel, like this video, share and leave a comment. The Atlantic slave trade was one of the most tragic events in human history, displacing millions of Africans from their homes and creating a legacy of oppression for their descendants. This human tragedy does not even account for the Arab slave trade of African men and women, which is seldom discussed. Public culture often assumes we can't know which ethnic groups were taken in slavery, but with some research we can identify, highlight and remember the people who experienced this tragedy. One way to honor these Africans is by speaking their names and acknowledging their history and experiences. So let's begin with the top 10 African ethnic groups taken in the Atlantic slave trade, starting with number 1. Number 10. The Sambar people are located largely in northern Nigeria and Cameroon. Their oral history suggests that their identity formed through the intermingling of two groups, the Daka and Lokar speakers, who spoke different yet similar languages. Victims of frequent slave raiding during the Fulani jihad in the 18th and 19th centuries, the Sambar eventually migrated to the mountains, organized themselves, and retaliated by attacking slave trading caravans. Number 9. The Woff people are found in Senegal, Gambia, and Mauritania. Their origins are debated, but many believe they migrated southward from Mauritania. The Wolof established kingdoms and even an empire, but internal conflicts led to the enslavement of many. Some claim their first kingdom was founded by an Almoravid leader who introduced Islam to Senegal. Although most Wolof today are Muslims, past violent jihads caused significant displacement and internal disagreements about Islam. Number 8. The Brong people inhabit the borderlands of Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Burkina Faso. Part of the larger Akan ethnic group, the Brong migrated to the forested regions from a northeastern area of the Sahara. With a matrilineal descent system, they were central to the Gold Coast slave trade and were heavily affected. Many were known as Coromantees in Jamaica due to their large numbers in the trade. Number 7. The Fulani are one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa, spanning regions from Senegal to the Central African Republic and beyond. Their origins are debated, but evidence suggests a North African lineage dating back to 6000 BCE in Algeria. They were prominent throughout West Africa, building vast empires and kingdoms. While Fulani leaders were major participants in slave raiding during jihads, they were also frequently enslaved. Some well-known Fulani individuals, such as Ayuba Suleiman Diallo, Omar Ibn Said, and Abdul Rahman, were taken to the Americas. Number 6. The Manda are a collection of ethnic groups speaking Manda languages spread across West Africa. Among them, the Mandinka or Malinka stand out for their cultural and linguistic influence. Builders of one of West Africa's greatest empires, the Mandinka often raided coastal regions, intermingling with coastal peoples. Even some Fulani themselves have Mandinka ancestry. The Mandinka were so prominent and popular that the term Mandingo, an English corruption of the word, became a reference for strong black men with many attributes. The origins of the Manda are said to be in the Sahel further north. Archaeological evidence suggests that Manda groups were the first producers of stone settlement civilizations in West Africa, building elaborate fortified structures in Mauritania. Manda culture was dominant in West Africa from around 1100 BCE to 1600 CE. The Mandinka raided the coastline of West Africa, creating many hybrid kingdoms, all of which became entangled in the Atlantic slave trade. Now that we have covered the first 5, before we continue to the top 5, subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment to support Africarized. Number 5. The Fwen people. The Fwen are the largest ethnic group in Benin, particularly in the southern region. They're also found in southwest Nigeria and Togo. Historically, the Fwen were a hybrid ethnic group formed through intermarriage between the Aha and Yoruba, creating a new identity. The Fwen people established a prominent kingdom in the 17th century called Dahomey, famous for its female warriors, later known as the Dahomey Amazons. The Fwen were both victims and perpetrators in the Atlantic slave trade. They became a significant population among the enslaved in Haiti and Trinidad. Haitian Vodou, a direct descendant of Fwen religious practices, played a central role in Haiti's successful war for independence against the French. Number 4. The Bongo People. The Bongo are a Bantu-speaking people along the Atlantic coasts of Central Africa, primarily in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Angola. Similar to the Mandinka in West Africa, they established one of the most prominent empires in Central Africa, the Kingdom of Congo. The Bongo migrated closer to the coast in the 13th century and were among the first Africans south of the Sahara to convert to Christianity through trade with the Portuguese. However, the Portuguese began enslaving Bongo citizens, prompting the King of Congo to write to the Portuguese monarch. Each day, traders are kidnapping our people, children of this country, sons of our nobles and vassals, even members of our own family. This corruption and depravity are so widespread that our land is entirely depopulated. Despite the king's protests, the Portuguese continued their raids. One notable figure, Ganga Zumba, the grandson of a Congo king, was enslaved and taken to Brazil. Refusing to accept his condition, he became the leader of a massive runaway slave settlement, often referred to as a kingdom, complete with a palace, guards, and ministers. Brazil, a primary destination for enslaved Africans, bears significant Bongo influence to this day. Number 3. Igbo People. The Igbo are an ethnic group native to southeastern Nigeria. As one of Africa's largest ethnic groups, the Igbo have a long-standing presence in the region. They became involved in the Atlantic slave trade largely due to the Aro Confederacy, which captured and enslaved Igbos to meet European demand for labor and palm oil. The Igbo were a significant portion of those enslaved from the Bight of Biafra, accounting for about 13% of all Africans taken to the Americas. Number 2. Yoruba People. The Yoruba are an ethnic group from southwestern Nigeria, north-central Nigeria, and southern Benin. Like the Fulani, they are one of Africa's largest ethnic groups. They have been a dominant cultural force in southern Nigeria since at least the 11th century. The Yoruba played dual roles in the Atlantic slave trade as both victims and perpetrators. The Oyo Empire, a major Yoruba political entity, was deeply involved in the trade. Yoruba culture and religion left a lasting mark on the Americas, particularly in Cuba, Brazil, Trinidad, and other regions where the Orishas are still celebrated. Number 1. Mbundu People. The Mbundu are centered in Angola. Their origins point to multiple chiefdoms around the Zambezi River. According to the Atlas of the Atlantic slave trade, most enslaved Africans came from the Congo and Angola regions, with Angola being a major source for those transported to Brazil. The Mbundu had many kingdoms, some vassals of the larger Congo Empire. Queen Nzinga, one of their most famous leaders, fiercely resisted Portuguese slave raids. However, the Portuguese aligned with the Mbangala, brutal warriors in the region, to enslave many Mbundu people. The Mbundu's cultural presence in Brazil is profound. Enslaved Mbundu people brought a martial art form called Ngolo, which evolved into the famous Brazilian art of capoeira. This enduring cultural legacy highlights the resilience and influence of Mbundu descendants. This concludes the list. Remember, knowing your history keeps Africa inspiring. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our Africarized YouTube channel, like and share.